1836 onward, Bombay Chamber of Commerce lobbies for better port facilities. 1837, something very important happens. 1837 to 1840, the Irish Navy officer, the British, the Royal Navy officer, an Irishman, Richard Bourne, launches a mail service. Those days, the mail service was extremely important. Before telegram came, the mail had to travel by ship. And it kind of ran governments, ran organizations. It's a very, very critical service. So they somehow managed to lobby and get the mail service contract from Britain to Iberian Peninsula. That is a peninsula. So when they said peninsular steam navigation, it was not the Indian peninsula. That came a little later. So that starts. So Brodie, Maggie, Wilcox, Arthur Anderson, they start off. And by 1840, with Royal Charter, they've registered the Peninsular and Oriental Steam Navigation Company by acquiring the Transatlantic Steam Company as well. By 1842, the charter mandated that they had to start a mail service to India. It's so critical, because that's a time when the East India Company started its expansion, both trade and political expansion. By 1842, they had a very good Egyptian stopover. Let's remember, we did not have the Suez Canal at that point in time. We had to get off at one corner of Egypt, travel 150 miles in the desert and catch the ship on the other side. It was as complicated as that. And the P&O had a rest house. They had, proper tea shops and proper food spots, and they had a proper, arrangement. And the British Railways had also invested there. So there was a lot of activity in this 150 miles, and many people did not even want the Suez Canal to open, including the P&O. The P&O strangely did not want the Suez Canal at that point in time. The talks are anyway on as to, who should own that space and, who should control it as well. 1842, a 2,000-ton ship, Hindustan, makes a maiden voyage to India, Southampton to Calcutta in 91 days. Followed by Bentinck, a super luxurious ship, Suez to Calcutta at 25 days. This was a technological revolution of steam. 1852, the PO ship Chuzan connects Britain to Australia, the New World, in an 84-day journey. See, they're investing in it. They're working hard at it. They're investing in it. So these are the three founders. Just a quick picture. I like to have a few visuals in between always, so to break the textual monotony. So this is Wilcox, Arthur Anderson, and caption Richard Bourne for you. By 1855, the first tea consignment by steamer is born on a P&O ship called Malabar. Now, some bit of technological innovation had started, and 38 out of 55 steamers were already under screw propulsion. Now, that's so important, and I will come into the screw propulsion in the last slide as well. I will show you where in Mumbai do we celebrate the introduction of screw propulsion. I mean, it's something which is revolutionary and it kind of brings speed into the whole transportation system. What is happening in Indian geography at that point in time? 1856, Mackinnon and Mackenzie, there are two people. They secured an East India Company contract mail between Calcutta and Rangoon. Now, see, just remember Rangoon. This is where this whole Mackinnon-Mackenzie story begins. It's something very, very close to their heart. it is the DNA. It is something that they've really worked upon. Because Calcutta was a capital, Rangoon was a subsidiary capital, it was Burma. And by 1856 is when 1854 to 1858 is when Burma's actually annexed. So that is the time Burma becomes very, very important. It becomes part of the British Indian Empire. So they found the Calcutta and Burma Steam Navigation Company, registered in Glasgow. Just remember, it's not registered in India, it's registered in Glasgow, 1856. And 1858, all of us know the government of India, the East India Company, was replaced by the imperial government. So I'm just trying to weave together the whole storyline across multiple narratives so that we are able to understand the dual history that will play through in 1919. In 1858, what is happening in Hong Kong? Now, see, we are talking of different theaters that finally come together in this 1919 story. 1858, Thomas Sutherland is a humble PO agent in Hong Kong. He does something revolutionary. He wants to expand the business there. He connects Japan, and he works very hard to be where he is. Subsequently, he's given some very senior positions, and we will see what happens of him. In the US, what is happening at the same time? See, this whole period is so much full of drama. 1861 onward, we've got the US Civil War and the resultant cotton boom in Bombay until the end of the war. The trickling effect continues till late 1860s. Now, this is a time when the real boom in Bombay happens and Bombay becomes critically important because the money flows in. Britain suddenly discovers that the volume of cotton required for them to survive their industry can come from nowhere but India. This is something way back in 1840 was known. Cotton investments were being sought. Bartley Frere had said this many times over. Even when he was not the governor of Bombay, he used to work in Calcutta and in Sindh and all that. That cotton is so critically important. But this time, they see this transpiring. In 1862, British India Steam Navigation Company is registered in Scotland and it subsumes the Calcutta and Burma Steam Navigation, the same owners, Mackinnon Mackenzie. So they launched this company. Mackinnon Mackenzie continues to be the managing agent for a good 100 years for the BASN. So this partnership, this parental partnership continues. It's a very, interesting, corporate lineage. In 1867 to 1869, PO has a bad time because the conservative government in UK suddenly says, no, what monopolies? No, we will open it to everybody, including French companies, any courier company. Those days, postal companies were operating more like courier companies. They did not have this, modern kind of, postal that comes in 1858, 1850s, 1860s. So they said, no, we will open to everybody, including the French. So PO are completely flabbergasted and they said, this is nothing doing. So thankfully, what happened, certain other political needs came. They had to lend their ships to the British government and they negotiated. And eventually Anderson gets a 12-year extension on mail contract to the East as in this entire side of the Suez. At that point in time, they are crying that don't open Suez Canal, we will get ruined. And everybody else in UK says, no, open Suez Canal, we want a free flowing traffic. Imagine the world's greatest shipping company not wanting to have Suez Canal opened at that point in time. But eventually, we all know that it did open. Around that time, 1873, the Bombay Port Trust is also set up. So this building is obviously, early 20th century. This is by Bittet. This is, we will come to the architectural story in a very small way in this because we are discussing corporate history today. In 1869, the BA till 1869. Why is it a watershed? Obviously, Suez Canal. Till such time, it only operated in eastern waters. They also had repair facilities in Mazgaon, Garden Reach. Garden Reach is in Calcutta on the Hooghly. And by then, that expanded to Dutch East Indies, the Jeddah Pilgrim route. We will remember the Jeddah thing. It's very, very important. The story will again come back in 1919, 1920 with Walsh and with Jeddah. Please remember this. And in 1869, as I said, the need for diversification and commercial expansion suddenly came. POs completely stuck up with this mail business. They don't have ships to carry cargo. So now they suddenly want to get into cargo and passengers and forget the mail business is what they're trying to say. But mail sticks to them right till the end. Then 1870, a very, very important personality, James Lyle Mackay, starts working in Mackinnon Mackenzie, Calcutta as a clerk. Very promising gentleman. He works very hard. He turns around this company. He manages Mackinnon as a managing, eventually he becomes a partner. And as we said, 1873, formation of Bombay Port Trust. 1874, Mackay becomes partner in Mackinnon Mackenzie in Bombay. So this is where he gets a position of power. These are all important people, whether we like them, not like them, whether we have any kind of, historical, perspectives and whatever. These are important corporate giants whose histories I do believe we must know. By 1874, the first home route of BI from India, followed by the Australian route expansion has happened. See how the whole world is getting linked together by this time. 1875, the first cartelization happens. This is very, very important because the rebate system is introduced for the first time. Rebate system is simply saying you use our ships for the next 12 months. Don't patronize any other ship companies and we will give you a hefty discount back. It is pretty much like cashback. What credit card companies, other companies, so many companies give us freebies now. We accept it with love. Those days, the rebates, it is basically loyalty discount, nothing beyond that. But this becomes one huge political furor, as you will see during Walson's time. 1882, Sutherland becomes chairman of PO. Sutherland, if you remember, our friend in Hong Kong, he now becomes chairman of PO. He's kind of organized a lot of things. He's really contributed by then. By 1890. BI is now opening up big time to East Africa. India had a very large business presence in Zanzibar. And Mackinnon himself is a catalyst in the British East India Africa Company. He has a personal stake. So by this time, if you look at these posters and these advertisements on the screen, I hope they're visible to you. You can see India, China, Japan, Royal Mail Steamers, Peninsular Oriental Steam Navigation Company. And below that is Australia, Tasmania, New Zealand. There's a guidebook for passengers, probably around circa this 1893. Advertisements, for, if you look at this, it is PO and British India Lines because they had a partnership and eventually they merged. Sailings, passage rates, and notices, Mediterranean, Egypt, Sudan, India, so many places. I hope you're able to see this screen clearly enough. Anita, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Great, great. I mean, because these are all small print. Otherwise, I will just have to expand these. That's right. Okay, so by the time, what is happening is around the turn of the century, the British India Steam Navigation Company. This is before the entire planning of Ballard Estate happens. The entire planning of Ballard Estate happens around 10, 12 years later by George Whitted. But by the time Charles Stevens, son of Frederick Stevens, and Charles Stevens is a big architect in his own right. I think we should not just look at him as, son of Frederick Stevens. This building of BASN is ascribed to him. I have a strong feeling, but I may be wrong, but Papa Stevens had a hand to play in this, given the, the Scottish Gothic style. And this is like a Scottish castle, probably because the Scottish patrons of the company wanted it that way. And you can see the lion actually sitting on top with an orb. A lion with an orb is a very common British metaphor. We will find that in various places, whether it is Raj Bhavan of Calcutta, whether certain royal houses in Bengal, or various other places in various parts of the world. It's a very common thing, lion with an orb. This is called Kamani Chambers now. So I just thought I'll bring this in here because this is approximately around the turn of the century, 1900, 1902. That's the time when this building is set up. This is a very, very important building and a very important picture. So this is the line that we were talking about. So by 1887, something very important happens. Modern technology and great new luxury is invested upon in what PO calls the Jubilee class ships. Jubilee is 1887, Queen Victoria's Jubilee. 4 ships at an exorbitant cost. Victoria, Arcadia, Britannia, and Oceania at 190,000 pounds each is built, and built beautifully, technologically superb, as well as supreme luxury. I mean, nothing in the time had ever seen anything like it. So these people have really worked and turned around. I mean, they have created a new milestone in global maritime history. What's happening in India at that point in time? Our good Jamshedji Tata now wants to get into a partnership with NYK. NYK is a famous Japanese firm. It's still very much active. And he gets into a partnership. He buys 2 ships. They have 2 ships. They say, let's get into a partnership, have an operational partnership, 4 ships. Immediately, PO comes jumping. This is the first big instance where PO actually cuts a big Indian firm. Already between BI and between other British interests, we had one small company floated by Tagore's family, one company floated in the south by Chidambaram Pillai. Various companies, whenever small Indian companies come, they will ensure either they are bought out or they don't have any business. They will tell their customers, we will cut rates for you, we will carry stuff free for you, but don't allow new entrants to come. It's basically old-fashioned monopoly game. So P&O drops rates from like 15, 17 rupees a ton right down to 2 rupees, 1 rupee kind of stuff. Plus they start telling people will carry you free on the way back and stuff like that. So obviously then Tata is not making money. He exits that business. NYK continues in some form or other. NYK, we see their advertisements and all. So this is one place where we remember how monopolization and cartelization works. Then 1897, another milestone, James Mackay becomes Baron Inchcape of Strathender and member of Viceroy's Council in India. This is another very important movement when the magnate of shipping now is also a very important political figure, both in UK and in India. This is where the whole storyline, where a corporate rivalry now becomes a political rivalry and a matter of national pride. So these are important movements to remember. 1890s and all, we remember the Bombay dockyard is expanded, Victoria Princess, and so many other things. By 1914, we know Alexandra Dock comes. So there is this expansion happening here. In 1903, very important technological upgrade never seen before in global maritime history is what the M class. M class is basically a new 10,000 ton ship class that P&O launches, a technological breakthrough actually. There were, there were various ships, Marmora, Moldova, and so on and so forth. And one of them was also used by King George V to come to India for his darbar. This now becomes some kind of a national carrier, some kind of a prestigious, while it's not government owned, it becomes some kind of a national carrier. So it is a pride. It is the liner on which the troops also get troops travel on requisition ships. Cargo goes, royalty goes. They've gotten into the position of power. P&O by 1904 introduces a concept of pleasure cruises. This is something very important. Then 1907, BI connects Calcutta Rangoon to Japan and invested in other companies, also with interest in the Mughal line, which is the Hajj line. See how the whole world is coming together with India at that point in time in terms of maritime routes. This is an important line if you draw on a map. Lord Inchcape becomes chairman of BI by 1913. 1914-15 is a very important moment in global corporate history. The P&O merges with BI. Sir Sutherland and Lord Inchcape have very fast friends. They trust each other completely. In a private meeting, they decide the price of the mutual shares. They go back to the shareholder stock. Everybody agrees. These two men have built the credibility in the global corporate world as well as the political world so much that people just signed up to it. People just signed up and they create a giant conglomerate, which is P&O, of which BI now becomes a subsidiary with independent operating identity and its flag and its livery and everything. But now, whether we call it BI, whether we call it P&O, it's all the same thing from here on. This is Lord Inchcape. This is Sir Thomas Sutherland. So I just a quick shot of a newspaper clip. If I don't know if you can see closely. Those of you on a laptop can definitely see. I'm not sure if mobile people can see. This is Bombay Chronicle, 11 June 1913. On the left is Peninsular and Oriental. Look at these. It's starting Bombay, to Marseille and London. Limited stops to Brindisi, Malta. You can start on this 8,000-ton ships from Bombay, and somewhere at Aden you change on to this 10,000 plus ships, which are all this, Marmora, Medina, Moldavia, Mongolia. These are all this. This is a new M class that I was talking about, and both these shipping companies give ads in the papers every day. You look at BI, right? The ad next to it. This is going from Victoria Dock, Karachi, Basra. It's going all over. The Persian Gulf, Seychelles, and if you see PO, it's talking about wireless telegraphy. All steamers are fitted with wireless telegraphy. This is very interesting. The way, if you look at old newspapers, there is no end to the amount of amazement one will get. This is the press release of their merger, where the pioneer is reported on 13 July 1914. The extraordinary general meeting of the stakeholders of the P&O scheme navigation, addressed by Sir Thomas Sutherland. How he explains that this is a great merger and the terms of the convention, the stock price, how will it benefit operationally, etc., etc. I think these are the great corporate speeches which need to be taught in management schools even today. At a time in 1914, when the war was raging, if you remember, 1914 was just before. War was just coming and war was already there. This 1914, 1915, the First World War. A company could take this kind of a step to merge, to create a conglomerate, bigger conglomerate than ever before. So without the larger scheme of things that we today, we need to look at these as global maritime histories playing out in India. When we remember the building here, we need to remember the larger global world history that played out. Okay, so then some other pictures here. If you look at this P&O Pleasure Cruises 1905, we talked about pleasure cruises. We have pleasure cruises SS Malwa. This becomes an important innovation in the business strategy of PO. It's important we understand how PO is also operated, because what happens in this very unilinear narratives, we miss the larger picture. And as I opened up in the beginning, this is going to be a dual narrative. We need to understand PO as well as we need to understand Scindia separately and how they clashed. What were the issues? What are the underlying issues that we are coming to? Then we have this table, advertisements. You can look at these beautiful pieces of history that these little posters are. This is Mackinac Mackenzie for you, and this is Neptune here. So this stands just at the gate of Alexandra Dock. So this is a very important building. I had just referred to Inchcape becoming the boss in Bombay. So, but this building came later. I am not aware of the older address. So this is a long shot of the same building, British India Steam Navigation, now Kaman in Chambers. These are the two flags, the BASN flag and the PO flag. So I put them together because we understand that operationally now they are kind of together. Okay, so in 1914, as I said, the World War commences, and 41 of PO ships are requisitioned for war, of which 25 are lost. They make sacrifices for their nation too, as much as our ships, our people have made sacrifices for our nation. 1914, Alexandra Dock, and great investments peak in Ballard Estate for shipping support. 1918, PO starts, normal operations, war ends. By 1920-21, 427 steamers, 2.25 million tons, world's largest shipping corporation ever. By 1919, yet another technological innovation, oil burning engines for all steamers. Look at the kind of technological investments that they make. It's really very interesting to see how this company has come from where it was just carrying mail to where it is now. This is Ballard Bandar. I think we all know the story of Ballard Bandar. I will not dwell too much into it. This is a point where the sea meets the rail and actually continents meet. You could travel from Southampton or from London or wherever, arrive here, take a train, within 10 minutes of your arriving here or whatever, as long as it takes you to unpack and load your baggage in the train and reach Peshawar or Calcutta, as you please. So this is Ballard Bandar. So this is all happening in this 1915, 1910 to 1925 kind of space. That's why I'm giving you the larger picture, because this incident or series of incidents that we talk about 1918 to 1922, of which 5th April 1919 is so critical. All this plays out in this larger drama of the development that is happening. So this is Ballard Pier Mole Station. You see the ship on one side and you see the railway on the other side, just across the platform. This is an amazing piece of infrastructure that, as always, Bombay has lost for residential real estate. 1919, now comes Walchand Hirachand. He's on a train from Delhi to Bombay, and he by chance comes across the news of a ship, and a very old ship, a hospital ship, decommissioned to be sold for 25 lakhs by the Maharaja of Gwalior. So that is a time he's thinking, let's kind of do something different. 1919, if you remember, the political mood has already changed. 1919, the reforms, the initial clamor for some kind of an accountable legislature. Then we have, unfortunately, the other bigger incidents like Jallianwala Bagh happened. A lot of things happened in 1918 to 1920 politically. So in 1919, he wants to get into this shipping business. So it is amazing. Between February 16th and March 27th, he had already bought the ship, retrofitted a hospital, an aging hospital ship, into a passenger ship with cargo capabilities. And March 27th, he registers it as India Steam Navigation Company with a huge public subscription. Now, why huge public subscription? Because his friend was Narottam Morarji, already a textile magnate. Narottam Morarji came with a very great corporate lineage himself. His father was a textile magnate. He comes from a very illustrious family, and he's highly trusted. And that's a family which continue to carry the trust for very long. So that is one very, very important connection. Then two people agree to invest with him, which is Lalubhai Samaldas and Devchand Kilachand. So these people come together, and of course, it is led by Narottam Morarji, who agrees to open a managing agency, and he will be the chairman of this company as well. So on April 5th, the first sailing actually happens. The first sailing actually happens. I mean, this is amazing. Within such a short time, they managed to get a huge amount of customers. They managed to get everything sorted. I mean, this is like amazing that within a month and a half, they're able to sort so many things and actually be able to operationalize this in a very decent way, that very senior government officers, including the Bombay High Court Justice, his wife, Maharaja Kapurthala, Maharaja of Kashmir, and other luminaries, MC Chagla, several people, they actually booked tickets because they had to go. And this is a time when the war was just over and getting tickets was difficult. So a lot of people, like, Chief Justice Bombay High Court, we had Maharaja Kashmir and Maharaja Kapurthala, Thakur Sahibs of Limpi and Bhavnagar, Sir Chunilal V. Mehta, MC Chagla, Bhulabhai Desai, Sir Marolal Nanavati, Mohan Amarse, and of course Walchand and Narottam themselves. And so this is something which is very, very important. So this happens that day. Okay, so in 18 days they reach Marseilles. Unfortunately, the ship needs urgent repairs, so many people get off there. They don't go the entire way. So it restarts journey on May 7th, reaches Tilbury dock on May 14th. Now comes the trouble. They need an insurance. They need a particular kind of insurance and a particular certification from Lloyd's. That takes a very, very difficult phase of negotiation. Nobody is willing to help them there because nobody in London wants Indian shippers, because everybody, that fear of outsourcing, the fear of foreigners taking jobs, the fear of foreigners taking business stuff and all. So that thing is there at that point in time. So at a very exorbitant cost, they get it refitted, get it insured and everything. Now comes, nobody is willing to give them cargo because of course everybody is used to their own loyalties, loyalty discounts, comfort zone, political patronage. They actually end up buying ballast cargo of cement and pig iron. They put it and they come back with passengers, with 352 passengers and 1,500 tons cargo. And the ship did a couple of more trips to Marseille and Genoa, but the ship wasn't doing too well, and the rising cost of bunker coal and repeated repairs laid it up. And eventually, for a very small price, it was scrapped at Musgao. So that is what happens for the ship. But they know this ship is old and this needed to be done. So they were making plans to purchase six second-hand ships from Palace Shipping Company. Some weird rule prevented British companies of selling old assets to Indian companies or any foreign company for that matter. So they ended up buying the whole company itself. So that was permissible apparently. They took the permission and went ahead. So in 1922, something very important in India happens. See, this is where I'm trying to link multiple stories. I said we will link multiple narratives. See, we always read political history, Montague Chelmsford, legislative, government of India. That's one story we read in political science books. One story we read in maritime books. One story we read in architecture books or corporate. I'm trying to build all of it together. 1922, first session of post-reform legislative assembly, Sir P.S. Sivaswamy proposed some protection for Indian shipping. This is a very momentous time. By the same 1922, Inchcape and Walchand are already having their skirmishes. He actually makes a commercially lucrative offer to Walchand. And this is a moment when Walchand stands up to complete patriotism, and the entire company, I mean, 80 of the larger shareholders, he and Narottam, they meet personally and they jointly discuss, and all 80 of them and whosoever else they could influence, they decided under no circumstance are they selling out to a British company. I think this is a moment of pride. More than 5th April 1919, the moment of pride, I think, is when a big business house, set of 80 business people who are very well entrenched, they go for immense economic personal sacrifice to make a patriotic refusal. No, we will run a loss-making Indian company. We will take whatever problems come, but we will not sell out. I think this moment is the moment that is really worth remembering. When that big offer comes, and those share prices and all are on public domain, we can go and anybody can look them up. Okay, so by the time then loyalty gets scrapped, then they actually reduce the share capital, reissue, they somehow survive. So this is a newspaper clip of Bombay Chronicle, 3rd April 1919 and 5th April 1919. This is where they are talking about loyalty going to go. This is issued by the managing agent, Narottam Moraji and Company, 46 Tamarind Lane, Fort. It's talking about the ship leaving at 2:30 p.m. ST, standard time, carrying first class A, first class B, and second class passengers. Passengers are requested to be present at Ballard Pier for medical inspection 11:30 a.m. They're also requested to send their baggage, especially heavy luggage, to the vessel which is lying at berth number 12, Alexandra Dock, before so-and-so time. Look at this advertisement. This is very momentous. This 3rd April 1919, 5th April 1919. I was able to access them through the Asiatic Society of Mumbai's, we have a very good digital archives. So this is SS Loyalty. These are the three. I could not get a picture of the fourth gentleman, very reliable picture. So these are the three which I could get. This is a first the first ordinary general meeting of the shareholders of the Scindia Steam Navigation. Look at the address. This is at Ismail Building, Hornby Road. Ismail Building, Zara Building today. That is where it was. That's a very famous building with a lot of other histories too. The registered office at that point, if you look at this balance, look at this, financial statement. Kilachand Devchand, Balchand Hirachand, and Deen Shah Wacha. Sir, Deen Shah Wacha is also here. And secretary and general managers, Mansuklal Mehta, all great people. And that time, if you see bankers, Tata Industrial Bank, this bank had not yet merged with Central Bank of India at that point in time. This is another story that I love to tell. So very coincidentally, what happens, Mackinac Mackenzie, I don't know whether this is deliberate, same 3rd April 1919, in the Pioneer, they are giving discounts on sterling rate beginning 1st of April. This is amazing. This could be a coincidence, or this could be a general business strategy to again hold customers to ensure that they don't go over to the new company. If you see this, until further notice, the rate of exchange will be at so and so, and this provides for an equivalent of so much 12.5% reduction on the present homeward fare. Very important. These are all newspaper clips that I have accessed for you. Okay, then in the Bombay Chronicle, 2nd November 1922, excerpt 1. This is Naruto Morarji giving his very momentous shareholder speech. It runs into about a full newspaper page. I just kind of got you some few excerpts. He's talking about SS loyalty. Anita, are you able to see the screen? I hope the screen is visible to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's saying it's really very unfortunate we have to lay her up and cannot make it a paying proposition. You will, however, agree with me that for obvious reasons, I cannot say anything more than assuring you that your board has been giving anxious thought as to the best way to deal with this boat. He's talking about the laying up of SS loyalty. What a sad fact. So on the right side, he's talking about the whole discrimination. He's talking about rebates. He's talking about the shipping committee, the Board of Trade in England of 1918, who urged a reservation of the coastal trade of India and Burma to British ships alone. This is the British lobby at work he's talking of. Not only are we not to be our own masters in our own house, but it is a vested interest who, not satisfied with the monopoly that they enjoy, want to have our own house reserved to themselves forever. This is his words in the shareholders meeting, the right side column. I'm reading there from the newspaper. Another excerpt from the same speech. It's a very long news. I would strongly recommend at some point in time you all take this access and please do have a look at these articles from newspapers. Very, very important. Here he's talking of two subsidiary companies and his companies and which helped him run the Burma business. Because of course there was this huge tiff about the Rangoon route, which was very dear to the BI people. Then on the right, he's talking of gentlemen, one of your directors, the Honorable Mr. Lalubhai Samaldas, moved a resolution in the Council of State last March, where he had asked for the rates of the Indian and foreign companies being the same. The Indian companies should be given preference of carriage of the government and railway materials from any port of India. And then he goes on to say nothing was given. On the contrary, a 10-year contract was given to a Britisher, and these people were only given some goats and cows. He's saying, except for the inquiry of the carriage of a few cows or a few goats from Karachi to Rangoon, the Scindia company has never been intimated by the departments concerned when substantial cargoes had to be lifted. So this is what he's talking about, the government's discrimination against non-British companies. In the same paper, in the same speech, he also talks about the rebate, make rebates illegal. If you can read that, headline, because see, these are things which these people feel very unfair about. But in the larger global world, these loyalty discounts were the given way to retain customers because people had long-term cargo coming, going. It used to take 2 months, 1 month for a tour to happen. So he's now talking of a very different, he's challenging a global practice as well, saying you are playing this out in India, not allowing other companies to come. But is this really right? And he's talking of the higher ethics as well and the legality as well. He's saying, it is certain percentage of the freight paid is returnable to the shipper at the end of 12 months, provided no cargo shipped by any outside line. It's a powerful weapon for maintaining a shipping monopoly. So he's trying to talk to the government and lobby against this completely. So these are important items that he's trying to get into. Then look at another newspaper clipping, Pioneer, 17 December 1918. Here, Lord Inchcape is talking. An optimistic view of the prospects of the next decade is taken by Lord Inchcape speaking at the annual meeting of the P&O. He is talking that the coming decade would be one of immense production. The damage of the last 4 years would be repaired. A permanent scheme of trade and communication improved, and normal operations which had been suspended by the war resumed. It should be a decade in which we were more likely to see 3 jobs for one man than 3 men for one job. Cheers. And these are all nice newspaper clippings which I thought would make the story more comprehensible to you, because that is how we have to see the events that led to this great battle, metaphorical battle. Now, this is one map which I love showing from this very iconic book by Arunachalam. This is Mumbai Harbour and Docks. This is on page 49. I just kind of highlighted in red all the names. You have P&O Dockyard, you have a GIPR, which is a railway thing, and you have Karnak Basin, Alexandra Dock. You can just look at this enormous development which has happened here by 1920. Because many people who are not acquainted with maritime space, unlike this group, this is an experts group. This map is important for them because they kind of get an idea of where this is playing out exactly. This whole story is playing out. So by 1923, coming back to our little journal, by 1923, one tripartite agreement comes. It's actually technically bipartite, but it is kind of facilitated by government. So one of the authors calls it tripartite, but legally it's bipartite. A compromise, it's called a Delhi Agreement, a necessary evil. First admission of an Indian company into Indian Coastal Conference. So the Scindia company, under several constraints and restraints, is allowed to get into coastal trade. Now, that's the only way they could have gotten into that lobby and at least started business. But of course, they're not allowed to expand fleet. They're not allowed to go beyond a certain GRT. A lot of restrictions are there, but they get into it. 1923, very important political development happens. Indian Mercantile Marine Committee is constituted. Now, by 1926, S.N. Haji, who is a former employee of Scindia and a very articulate administrator, he becomes a member of the Legislative Assembly. So this is very important. This is the first attempt to promote Indian shipping interests through legal modalities, which is legislation. This is why Walchen's story is important. It is not that he just took a ship and he floated it across. This is how he is playing in the political field. The battle for the seas is actually fought on land and in legislatures as well. 1927, launch of Jalabala at Glasgow by Vittalbhai Patel, first ship built for the Scindias. In later years, there are 2 more ships, such very modern ships, one launched by Motilal Nehru and one by Sir R.P. Paranjpe. Motilal Nehru makes a comment saying, if all our money goes away in freight to foreign companies, we'll never be able to build our own ships. So that is the money we need to save. We need to build ships so that we sail our ships and save that money going out. 1927, another momentous change facilitated by Walchen is Dufferin, a training ship. If you remember, at the same time, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, P&O had also gotten into a training facility, because this is where you build capabilities. Long-term companies build capabilities not only for themselves, but for others. Important thing is, Dufferin was meant for anybody. It is not only for Scindias, while Scindias absorbed about 50-60% of the pass-outs. So this is a very momentous, important, long-term contribution. In 1928, the Coastal Traffic Bill, the Indian Coastal Traffic Bill is actually proposed, which wants Indian coastal shipping only for Indian-owned vessels. Again, of course, it runs into a lot of difficulty because the British administrators, as well as the legislators and business interests, will not let it go so easily, because this is something which is very close to the heart, right? They've built the Burma route, they built the Karachi route, they've sent steamers all the way from UK. They're not going to give up so easily. So in 1929, another tripartite agreement, this was between BI, Scindia and Asiatic. Finally, they agree to share the Rangoon Eastern Coast quota. So this runs for a while till Asiatic plays the fool again. And that's another, tangent which we will not get into. November 5th, 1929, Naruto Moraji dies in a car accident coming back from Lonavala. It's an awesome loss which Indian psyche could just not recover from for a very, very long time. He was a very, very loved business leader. So Walchen Hirachand, under great mourning, becomes the chairman. And 1930, this is extremely important again. Gandhiji's 11 points to Viceroy includes coastal reservation bill supporting Indian shipping interests. So this is something for the first time at that level this is pegged. So this is the contribution that the Scindia company and the Indian freedom struggle leaders at that point in time, they recognize this as an important item to further. Scindia is one name for it. The bigger item they're playing for is Indian economic freedom. If you remember 1930s when Purna Swaraj also is a great political goal. This is Bombay Chronicle, 8th November 1929. This is the Uttamna ceremony, domestic occurrence is what it says. Narottam Moraji died on Tuesday, 5th November at Lonavala. Uttamna ceremony on Friday, 8th November, 3 p.m. Bombay time. Shanti Bhavan. It says Bombay time. That also caught my eye. I wonder why they did not say standard time. So Pedder Road, Shanti Bhavan, Pedder Road. Okay. Then at the same time, coming to some interesting visuals, this is one passage rate and sailings notices. If you look at this, it is the particular timetable that I took this from on a particular month or a particular season, as it's called, November 29th to August 1930. The P&O is connecting. These are all the names of ships: Mongolia, Multan, Viceroy of India is on super luxury trip. Rajputana, Ranpura, Ranchi, Rawalpindi, Mongolia, Moldavia, again, these are the super luxury ones. Kayseri, Hind, Kathe, all these. And these are P&O lines. Now, the BA lines are Malta, Modoza, Madura, Mulbara, very clearly operationally defined brands, but of course they are together. And the port of call, London, Gibraltar, Algiers, Marseille, Malta, Port Said, Aden, Bombay. Other one, London, Southampton, Algiers, Malta, Port Said, Aden, Colombo, Calcutta. See, it's slightly different. Again, then London, Southampton, Gibraltar, Marseille, Port Said, Aden, Bombay, Colombo, Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Yokohama. This will remind us of Sutherland connecting Hong Kong with Japan. Then London, Gibraltar, Marseille, Port Said, Aden, Bombay, Colombo, Fremantle, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney. This is the old Orient partnership that BI got into. This is now operationalized here. Ports of call for BI, very similar, but this also comes to Colombo, Madras. I mean, this has got more of, Africa and South Asia here, if you see. So this is how this whole empire operationally pans out. And this, of course, is one advertisement. I'm sure there'll be many more if people were to search. So coming back to the historical journal, 1930, Associated Chambers of Commerce garnering public support in UK. 1930, Purna Swaraj gets announced. And 1930, Viceroy Shipping Conference presided by Lord Irwin himself. He talks of cooperation, not discrimination. 1931, Walton-Inchcape talks fail. And Walton says, we want it for Indians. Then Inchcape says, if this is how you persist, we will register as an Indian company, get an Indian partner, or do it ourselves with a rupee value registered company. And we will continue this, but we are not giving up. We work too hard to be here. And there is no concept of motherland and things like that. All of us are a free citizens of the British Empire, and we are here. And he has a very different kind of a tirade. So 1932, Inchcape passes away, succeeded by Lord Cragmile, and the Great Depression crisis starts around that time globally, which is a PO crisis time as well. So 1933, they strike one pact, which gives BA, Scindia, and Asiatic, facilitated by Lord Wellington and Sir Joseph Gore. So this is the first time when Indian coastal shipping is given legal permission and permission to expand as well under a quota system. Basically, you share business, you don't shut the British out, but you don't shut the Indians out. This is a very, very important one. The Gore Award is an important political achievement of Walton's negotiation. 1935 Act gives a lot of political goodies to India. That's the first time when Indian legislatures are allowed. If you remember, even after 1935, Bombay gets a prime minister, premier, BG Kher, and all that story happens in the political world. But in the shipping world, it was great gloom. It clearly said no discrimination against UK registered ships, crews, master, cargo, and passengers. So obviously, it was a big setback for Indian shipping. 1937, Walton, not to give up, goes and takes on Turner Morrison, who is a managing agent for the Mughal line at Calcutta, and he wants to get into the Hajj line. So eventually he does. So that's another theater in which this whole battle for the seas happens. 1938, Vallabhbhai Patel inaugurates Scindia House. 2 years ago, Vallabhbhai Desai laid the foundation. Now, this is a Scindia House which we know. Now, where was this company quartered before? There are different addresses. One was in the beginning, this 46 Tamarind Lane, because Narottam Moraji used to work there. Then they have an Ismail building address. Then they have another address on Sprott Road, which is one road before I mean, it is within Balad Estate. It is one road before Shurji Vallabh Das Road. So they have a Sprott Road address as well. And then, of course, India building. So in 1938, again, the whole chaos of the world starts because 1939 World War starts. Sir William Curie, chairman of FIO, faced the imminent requisition and loss of the entire PO fleet for war operations, directly or indirectly. Unfortunately, he was also the transport minister, thus morally obliged to service His Majesty at the loss of his entire fleet. And a large portion of his fleet does completely get destroyed in the war. It's a loss that the British entrepreneurs do never really recover from. So that is another story, because see, both these companies are playing separately in their own theaters. They are both gaining, they are losing, they are fighting. There are different narratives that one sees here. 1939, Scindia acquires an Anglo-Indian firm called Bombay Steam Navigation, controlled by British managing agents Killick and Nixon. This is one important acquisition because this was one legal tussle where Walchand was acquired. Walchand was blamed for being aggressively acquiring companies. So he had to negotiate and buy off that company because they were not, they were fighting this nasty rate wars and stuff like that. 1941, very, very revolutionary change. Scindia Shipyard, Visakhapatnam Foundation, started by Rajendra Prasad. Very, very important. So this is what the current government Visakhapatnam Shipyard is today. 1944, terrible loss. We all know what happened in 1944 SS Fort Stickin, a very long story. I mean, we have Commander Mon Narayan here, who's an expert on that. So unfortunately, bad luck, pure bad luck. Scindia lost Jal Vijaya, El Hind, Jal Padma, probably one more ship. I think it was 4. I may have missed one name. So this is one tragedy. 1945, PO goes through a huge tragedy. Half its fleet is lost in the World War. 7 million miles of war on the sea was fought on their fleet itself. By 1945, Scindia lost, 3 very important ships lost in bombing here. So everybody is losing out. Everybody is fighting for their own space. This is how this whole economic, political drama is playing out. In 1947, independence happens. The entire map of the world is redrawn and independent nation states come. Business interests change, investments change. Now, obviously, it's time for the P&O to reinvent itself and Scindia's to reinvent themselves. 1948, now Scindia suddenly focused on the shipyard, and Jalusha rolls out from Scindia shipyard, inaugurated by none less than Jawaharlal Nehru. 1950, MV Jalagopal, first completely Indian manned ship of Eastern Shipping Corporation, docks at Singapore. The crew is trained completely in Indian facilities, and the managing agents are Scindia's. It was not a Scindia ship, but they managed it. And we know who brought up Indian training. It was obviously the humble start made at T.S. Dufferin. So this is one newspaper clipping from Bombay Chronicle, 24 December 1938. It says, red letter day for Indian shipping. Sardar Patel opens India House. Gulabai sounds warning to anti-national foreign interest. A huge, huge article, actually. I really wish, we could have shown you the articles, but that would have taken a very, very long time and needs, internet, bandwidth to that level. So this article, if you people can access, talks about the great aspirations and the great challenges. So here Scindia's successful fight. Mr. Walchand gave a brief history of Scindia Company, the past 20 years, in which he spoke about how the P&O company had tried to buy over the Scindia Company and attempted to throttle it. So this is exactly what he's talking of in the inauguration of Scindia House. I'm reading from the screen. I hope it's visible to you.
Yes.
It's visible to me at least. Sir, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel warned those who played into the hands of foreigners that their days were numbered. As sooner or later, India will get Swaraj, and the national flag will fly over Indian steamers all over the world. See the pride in this. See the aspiration of a nation talking about a shipping company. It is just not a shipping company. It is, I think that the eventful day of 5th April 1919, that is one event. I think what's more important is what happened in 1922, 1927, 1928, 1930. This is where the story is playing out. So the changing times, the end or the beginning of a new age. What happens post this time? 1960, the P&O Orient is established in Australia, ending a long partnership in acquisition of Orient. By the time the P&O has gone through sufficient crisis, post-war crisis, had to sell off a lot, borrow, buy, a lot of things happened. 1972, a corporate crisis happens in PO. A complete reorganization of over 100 subsidiaries happen. Takeover of BI completely happens into parent company. The last BI library ship was Uganda. And 1997, what's happening in India? Unfortunately, India has to suspend all operations. The last ship, MV Jaltapi, also sold. I found a picture of Jaltapi in an accident next to a icy, icy sea route. Now, I mean, this I kind of found. I have not been able to research this picture further. But yes, 1997, they did suspend operation, and it was happening all the way from 1981 onward. 1981 onward, we knew the company was not doing too well. At some point in time, Walchen and family also got out of it. He had his own other business interests. There were other, intercorporate issues, financial issues. Then eventually it went back to the Narottam Moraji family and continued there ever since. So unfortunately, by 1980, the global passenger business had completely stopped on ships. It was all in air now. And only companies which could shift completely into the large scale logistics, they could manage this, and all other companies had to shut shop. That's when P&O sold off, restructured, and in 1993, the Royal Charter, they modified to allow foreign investment. I think till that time, the oh so British that stamp was there. I think that's the time when a lot of British companies started doing that. Even Standard Chartered Bank at one point in time was also British. They suddenly invited international investments post 1980s. That's the time I think the trickling effect of post-colonial economic change had happened. In 2006, a company called DP World becomes the new owner of the P&O group. And what is very good about DP World, they've retained the P&O brand for the cruise ships operations under P&O Ferry Masters, P&O Maritime, P&O Estates, and P&O Cruises. And a lot of it, what I've read, what I've shared with you today is from the DP World archives. And I do see that, they have a Mumbai address as well. I mean, that's something that I just got to know, but their big office is obviously in London, and they continue the P&O legacy. Now, if we were to round up and see where this played out, for those of us not familiar with Ballard Estate or from Mumbai, this is the space it plays out. I can push this slide off faster because I think most of us know us here. Witted Road is renamed Walchen Hirachand Road. I think that's one thing which I just wanted to mention. Frary Road becomes PD Melo Marg, and Ballard Road becomes Shurji Vallabhdas Road. The BAS and Kamani Chambers is there at Nicole Road, now Kamani Road. Scindia House is just next door at Narottam Moraji Road. And Mackinnon Mackenzie, we know, is at the corner of Shurji Vallabhdas Road, right behind Scindia House. So that is how, the old, the line and the loyalty still stay together. And a purely matter of chance, I have not investigated. I'm sure somebody else can add to this. I see a DP World address in the Darafshah House now. So maybe they're back to their old haunt. Maybe the line is back to its old haunt. I do not know. I've never gone inside, but somebody here may be able to add. So if I were to sound off and round up in the next 5 minutes talking of legacies and the multiple narratives, what are the multiple narratives that we have found? Founding of a modern shipping industry owned by Indians. Pioneer of modern shipping managed by Indians. These are two separate items because many people do not understand owning and managing as separate activities. And a study of legislative efforts for protectionism. So this is one category. Third one, most important, founding of a modern shipping related training in India, a foundation stone for future. Pioneering modern shipping manufacturing, which is a shipyard we spoke about. And it's an important leaf in the freedom struggle with the key political leaders. Now, everybody who we could think of at that point in time, Mahatma Gandhi off and on used to write in Young India about this. And he knew Narottam Moraji personally, probably because they both came from the same space, spoke the same language. There's a lot of camaraderie there. And he used to stay at their house also whenever he used to visit and all. So he was there, and we saw Motilal Nehru, Vithalbhai Patel, Vallabhbhai Patel, Bhulabhai Desai. Sir Purushottam Thakur Das, the names of all big names. Everybody was with the Scindias in furthering the national interest. The political leaders identifying themselves with the Scindia cause to symbolize commitment to real Indian economic and political freedom. Now, if we were to just go back and understand what does this multiple narratives and legacies tell about the global corporate world, about the P&O, a great corporate history of P&O and BASN who went all out to set new global standards in shipping itself. A great corporate history to be told and retold without prejudice. Global pioneer in fast email and in long distance overseas connectivity of passengers and cargo. Operationally, a global giant at a scale impressive even by modern standards. Constant innovation towards modern and large luxury ships, modern propulsion technologies adopted, and serving their nation, Britain, to the fullest best in peace and war, playing role of a national carrier. So, as I said, King George V also came in a P&O ship. Survival and rebuilding amidst global political changes. This is so important before, during, and after the empire. Now, on a larger platform, questions that we won't answer today, but things to remember what history teaches us, what happened 100 years ago, and how relevant or not relevant are they. The larger debate on corporates controlling government decisions, whether it was James Wilson of Standard Chartered Bank, or whether it was Lord Inchcape of P&O having positions in the government, or there are various corporates which even today hold influence over various governments. Over whichever government is there, there are corporates, and there are these, positive or negative impact on that. And to what extent should a government intervene in a private corporate battleground? This is one debate which will never end. This is always there. And what degree of protectionism versus liberal MNC operations and investment in a country are desirable? These questions are very large questions, but this story of 102 years old leaves the same debates to be had again and again for all times to come. And in Mumbai, while very unfortunately we are shutting shipping on this side of Mumbai, and there are these two pictures that I love sharing. We saw Erbsprema and Indies on BMC, right opposite that, on top of a railway station, just a railway station. There is a statuary of science depicting naval engineering on the left. Can you see that person holding a screw propeller? And the other person on the other far corner is holding a naval equipment, with a particular navigation equipment, a gun, some kind of a naval equipment. On the right, you see the statuary of commerce. If you can see where the red circle is, it's having a clipper. Now, look at on just a railway station, we have a clipper. This is a sailing ship, okay? And on the other side, we have a screw propulsion. Look at the symbolism. The railway and the ships, the way they connected the empire, that is a very fulcrum of the empire. And of course, as we know, this very humble railway station is a CSMT. So this is one favorite, view that I love to have. So that's pretty much what we have of shipping here, because rest all is memory, the rest all is debate. Shipping has more or less gone away from Mumbai now. So that's all from my side.